Well, hello and welcome to another edition of From the Woods Today. I'm Renee Williams and I'm here with my co-host Billy Thomas. And we have an exciting show lined up for you again, a lot on forest health.
We do, Renee, and forest health is such an important topic to everybody. It really is, and it's so interesting. Over the years, in our forestry and natural resource extension programming here at UK, we ask landowners and professionals what they're interested in and what they care about, and almost every time, forest or woodland health comes up to the very top. So it's a very fitting topic that we're going to be talking about, and it's really a prelude to a forest health conference that Dr. Crocker and some of the others are working on coming up in February. We'll talk a little bit more about that. We also have our Tree of the Week, and we're going to introduce a new segment at the end of the show talking about all the programs coming up in February. There's a lot going on in February, so get your calendars ready, and we'll show you those at the end of the day. So again, just a reminder, if you're via Zoom, you can interact with us via the chat pod, and if you're on YouTube or Facebook Live, you can interact via the comments. So we'll look forward to responding as appropriate. So really excited about today's show.
Definitely. So if you're ever been interested in the forest health, and we've got Ellen Crocker on, so if you can get on, Ellen, if you could kind of explain to us a little bit. Now, forest health just isn't about bugs, right?
No, that's a really good point. And it means different things to different people in different settings. So most of the time when we're talking about forest health, and by forest health, I mean the health of your woods, your woodlands, forests. When we're talking about forest health, what most people mean is both kind of the vigorous growth of the trees that live there, but also that forest community. So the other plants, the wildlife, everything that kind of makes up that forest, kind of balanced with your objectives. So whatever that is that you want. And that can look really different in different settings. So there's no one right answer for, what's a healthy woodland. I think health is a really useful term because, we all think of health, right? Especially right now, thinking about our health. And it's a little trickier with forests because it's not like it's just one tree. It's this bigger system. So how we define that and, what's a problem really depends. So it can mean different things depending on your goals. So what most people think of and what I think of kind of starts with that tree, the tree level. Are those trees healthy and what's going on with them? But that's just a small part of the picture. Do you care about that because you care about making money from your woods? Do you care about harvesting timber in a sustainable way that's going to let you bring in income while having that forest into the future? Do you care about that because you care about the wildlife that it supports, either kind of watching them, hunting them, or just enjoying them, supporting that diversity that's there, as well as, other plant life? Do you love looking for spring wildflowers and maybe hunting some mushrooms? Or maybe do you just want this woodland to be a great place for you and your family to enjoy into the future? Each of those different goals might have different things that you're going to care the most about from a health perspective. So something to consider there. And there's also the fact that health means different things in different contexts. So if you have an area that maybe recently was an old field site and is just starting to grow up into trees, it's going to look really different than an area that has really large, mature trees, maybe an older stand. Those are going to look really, really different. And not that they can't both be healthy. It's just that what that health is going to look like is going to be different. What the challenges that they face are going to be different. Because if you have something that looks like this, it might look really dense. And those trees are going to be competing with each other for light and resources to see who becomes the dominant trees of the future. So each of those individual trees may be less important because you've got lots of them and they're kind of battling it out, versus a scenario like this where what's really important is the dominant trees that are there, those big trees, as well as the next generation. What's going to take their place when something comes in? So what are some signs of problems when we talk about forest health? First off, of course, high mortality. If you've got a lot of dead trees, that can be a red flag. Now, you're not going to find a woods that doesn't have a dead tree here or there, and it's totally normal and natural. Our forests are naturally regenerating, right? Trees have their own life cycles and they're going to die when they get older. But if you've got a lot of that, to me, that's I wonder what's going on. Similarly, if you've got lots of widespread problems, it might be a problem, it might not, depending on your goals. You know, if you've got a lot of tip ups or trees that have signs of root issues, if you've got a lot of scars from fire or other things, a lot of decay, you know, to me, that's another thing that I think about. You know, does that impact my woodland long term? Does it impact my goals? And what can I be doing to address that? And then maybe a lack of diversity. So in this photo, you can see one of the main drivers of lack of diversity in our woods, and a major issue is invasive plants. In this photo, you can see it's a sea of this one invasive plant, winter creeper, that's just crowded out all of the natives that would be there otherwise. Not only does this decrease biodiversity overall, but it also leads to some things like a lack of regeneration. So you don't get the small trees coming up that'll someday be the next generation of that woodland. You just have the sea of invasives. So there are lots of threats out there to forest health, in particular invasive species. Now, whether that's talking about insects like the emerald ash borer that causes the death of ash trees, like you can see in this photo here, different diseases and invasive plants, as well as many other potential issues that can cause problems locally, whether that's native insects and diseases or extreme weather or many other things. Now, our trees and our woods are resilient, and we live in a great place for growing trees. So, you know, we've got a lot in our favor, but also some things that can really mess that up. So today we're going to be talking with some different forest health specialists and people who focus in this area of how to keep your woods healthy. And I just want to mention, you know, there's a lot of resources that are out there to assist you in this. And you're going to hear from two of them today, but in general, for those of you that own woods out there and are trying to think about the health of your woodlands, your county agents are a great starting place. Every single county in Kentucky has an office that you can go to for information, for resources. And we also have extension specialists here at the university who deal in these areas, whether it's myself in the forest health area, or Billy, who you know well, dealing with woodland owners, or even someone like Jonathan Larson, who's in the entomology department and has great expertise in that. Today, you're going to be hearing from Alexander Blevins, who's the Forest Health Specialist with the Kentucky Division of Forestry, and Joe Collins, who's the Senior Nursery Inspector with the Office of State Entomologist in the University of Kentucky. The Kentucky Division of Forestry is a great resource, both Alexandra and the Forest Health Unit, but also their service foresters, providing lots of information on the ground. There's also consulting foresters, technical service providers who can help you with particular issues that you're dealing with. Sometimes there are cost share funding opportunities for dealing with forest health issues through NRCS. And of course, organizations like the Kentucky Woodland Owners Association that can provide a lot of information on what's worked for woodland owners in your area and what the major issues are. So there are many more resources that we're going to talk about in just a minute. But I wanted to give you kind of that broad overview of when we're talking about the health of your woods, what do we mean and what are some of the major issues out there? So with that, I want to invite Alexander Blevins to join us. So Alexandra, thank you for being on today. You're the Forest Health Specialist with Kentucky Division of Forestry, and you've got a lot of ground that Kentucky Division of Forestry covers in terms of forest health.
That is correct. And thank you so much for that excellent introduction to the topic of forest health and the state of our forests here in the Commonwealth. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. I do have some slides today. All righty. Oops. All right. So, as Ellen mentioned, we are discussing the state of our forests, and I'm going to focus my discussion on what the Kentucky Division of Forestry is doing in the realm of forest health, and specifically what I like to call our heavy hitters from our past field season, laurel wilt disease, the emerald ash borer, and a extreme frost event that we experienced last spring. And so to jump right in, you may all recall previous discussions on laurel wilt disease, or LWD. And so this is a very novel or new disease to our state. It was first discovered in 2019. And so what is KDF doing in, to track and monitor this disease? So last season, we were able to complete 12 ground surveys across the entire state. And we're looking for these areas of sassafras decline associated with this disease. And, even in the midst of all the COVID craziness, we were authorized to do an aerial survey as well of southwestern Kentucky. And coming out of this survey work, we found 3 new county conformations in southwestern Kentucky in 2020, those being Trigg, Simpson, and Barron counties. And then the last thing that we're going to mention is symptomatic spice bush. And so, our main driver around this disease has been it presenting itself in sassafras, but there's also this potential for it to infect spice bush. So we will discuss more of that coming up. And so in this next slide here, you can see the laurel wilt disease progression map for our state. And highlighted in the blue there, you can see Christian, Todd, and Logan counties were the first detections in 2019 along the Tennessee border there. And then highlighted in green, you can see our 2020 detections. And so it's interesting to note that Trigg and Simpson, they kind of conjoin around those 3 previous detections from 2019. Whereas the Barron County detection kind of presents an outlier, as the sample that came back positive was taken in the Horse Cave area, which is found in the northern portion of that county. So keep that in mind. We'll discuss a little bit more about that later. And then next, I just wanted to share what I think to be some really exciting photos that I was able to snap from my aerial survey work surrounding laurel wilt disease. And so as you can see here, whether it's highlighted on the left by those circles or the arrows on the right, kind of in that sea of green, you can see that brown rusty coloration that's popping up within those highlighted areas. And what they actually are the dead sassafras that still have those wilted leaves attached to the trees. And so this was very exciting to me because we weren't really sure if we would be able to detect this from the air. And so now we know and can use this as a method to help monitor this disease in the future. And then, lastly, this is a big alert, so everyone please pay attention. We have been tracking this disease in mainly sassafras. But, after the field season ended, we have found what could be the first possible confirmation of this disease in spice bush. So I wanted to give you guys a rundown of some of the symptoms to be looking for this next field season when things start to leaf out again, and something to keep an eye on with spice bush for sure. So in the middle, pictured here, we have that early fall coloration in spice bush. As we had talked about with sassafras, you get that early fall coloration. So we are seeing this in spice bush as well. So you see that beautiful golden yellow color, but that was taken in July. So we're not supposed to be seeing that quite yet. So be on the lookout for that. And then in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see that iconic dark halo, that staining from the fungal pathogen that is wreaking havoc on these trees and bushes. And then in the upper right-hand corner, you see the wilted leaves and even the wilted fruit on this infected bush. And then lastly, in the bottom corner there, you can see all those miserable frass toothpicks hanging out of that sad spice bush bowl, which are potentially due to the vector of this disease, the red bay ambrosia beetle. So I'll urge everyone, to get out in the woods, take some walks, keep your eyes peeled, and look for these symptoms, not only in sassafras, but now in spice bush as well. And then to wrap up on this topic, I just wanted to share with you guys, our southern counterparts down in Tennessee are also tracking the progression of this disease. And so this is their most current map, and highlighted in the yellow there, those are their detections from 2020. And the main thing that screams out to me is that they were finding this disease in the extreme western and the extreme eastern portions of their state. So we are going to try our best this next season to really push and ramp up our survey work so we can try to detect this disease in, more counties. And so having said that, I'll say it again, please help us in this search. And then moving right along to the emerald ash borer, we all know this little bugger. It's been here for a while, and unfortunately, it's here to stay. And so what has KDF done from this past field season? We were able to conduct 11 more ground surveys in Western Kentucky, as well as an additional aerial survey to be able to detect ash decline in Western Kentucky. And coming out of that, we had 4 new county level infestations that were detected in Davies, Henderson, Monroe, and Muhlenberg counties. And then once again, we have the progression of EAB within the state depicted in this map here. And so as you can see in the basically the 2/3 eastern portion of the state is covered in EAB detections, spanning from 2009 to 2019. And we had kind of previously discussed the movement of this beetle as kind of like a western front across our state. But as you can see highlighted in the blue, our new county detections are sort of randomized all over Western Kentucky. So to me, it seems like it's only going to be a matter of time before we can fill in these remaining counties. And then lastly, Renee asked an excellent question about, forest health just isn't all about bugs, and that's exactly right. There are a myriad of biotic factors that play into our forest health, but there's also the abiotic factors, such as extreme weather events that Ellen had mentioned. And so everyone probably saw something of this kind of injury, whether it's in your own backyard or out taking a hike at a park or, in the national forest. So we were hit by 2 major freeze events late in the season, the first of which spanned from April 15th to 16th, and then the second was May 9th through the 10th. And both of these resulted in well below freezing temperatures across our entire state. And these were record-setting temperatures. And so what happened? How did the trees respond? Well, we saw damages to all different kinds of woody species. And these were observed and recorded, whether it was from landowner phone calls or our follow-up surveys or from the extension offices or, some of our field offices as well. And so what we found was that yellow poplar and sycamore were the hardest hit across the entire state. Yet it is to be noted that many, many hardwood species felt some level of impact due to these freezing temperatures. And then the last 2 images that I wanted to share just show the grand extent of these injuries across our state. So this first one is taken from Land Between the Lakes. And as you can see, all the brown in those drainages or the low-lying areas, that's where that cold air was just sitting there and really zapped all those bottomland oak species in that area. And then the second here, so that first was from extreme western portions of the state, and this is from the extreme eastern portions of the state. And you can see all of those gray trees, those are actually tulip poplars that their leaves just got zapped, and basically that early leaf development just was totally annihilated. And so, all of our trees really, as Ellen mentioned, they're very resilient. They can deal with these sorts of things. So we'll just have to keep an eye on them for next season to make sure that we don't have any lingering damages. And with that, I think we're going to hold questions till the end, but I'll urge you again, just reach out to us. And there's my email address if you want to report anything or have any questions or concerns. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And we can take a couple questions now if anyone has any. One question I had for you, Alexandra, is that you work with Kentucky Division of Forestry, and obviously the service foresters with KDF cover a lot of different topics, and forest health is one of those, so they can deal with landowners about their questions. In what kind of ways do the KDF foresters help landowners with forest health?
That's an excellent question. So, you know, we have our 6 field offices with service foresters in each one. And so when we get contacted about these forest health issues, most of the time, you know, we'll make a site visit and actually go and visit, you know, the landowner's property and do a walkthrough. And we can, you know, make diagnoses out in the field, or we can take a sample back to the UK Plant Diagnostic Lab. We work, you know, very closely with them, try to get to the bottom of all of these different types of issues. And the other big thing, you know, we kind of touched on this a little bit previously, these forest management plans, or the best management practices. If you want to get a really healthy forest, our service foresters can draft up a plan for these landowners and get you set up to, you know, your healthiest forest.
Great, thank you. Another question for you, if you mentioned several different issues that are spreading through the state, or things that pop up each year that you keep tabs on. If people notice these things, how would you like them to report that to you, or who else can they get in touch with about that?
Yeah, you know, as I said, you know, no matter whether you know if it's a serious issue or not, we love to hear about it. So you are more than welcome to reach out to me directly, you know, through my email or through phone, my work phone. Our extension offices through UK are excellent in that realm as well. And then, you know, we have our forestry hub, our headquarters. You can call the headquarters and they will direct all those calls to us as well.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. And Alexander is going to stick around if there are forest health related questions afterwards. So we'll hear more from her. So keep that in mind and type those in the chat if you have any. But next, I'd like to introduce Joe Collins with the Office of the State Entomologist and the University of Kentucky. And, you know, something that Alexander mentioned, you know, there's lots of different resources and we all kind of work together on these issues. And so I'm super thankful to have Joe here and to learn more about the work that the Office of the State Entomologist is doing and kind of how it connects to forest health and state. So thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Ellen. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to everybody today. Yeah, we are with the Department of Entomology. Just want to give y'all a brief kind of overview of all the things that we're involved with. Some are forestry related, some are not, but the first thing is nursery licensing and inspections. When I tell people this, a lot of times they think that we're going out and we're inspecting kid nurseries or childcare, things like that, but it's not. What we're doing is trees and plants. So all the garden centers, the landscapers and nurseries, they have to be licensed and inspected through us. It is a state law. Another thing that we're involved with is the export of ag commodities. We don't actually do the export, but we're helping to facilitate that. That's both outside of Kentucky to other states, but also to foreign countries. And as far as the foreign countries goes, most of that export is lumber, and predominantly it's oak lumber. We're involved in quite a few different surveys for invasive pests. I'm just going to highlight a few here. One is Asian longhorn beetle, which you may have heard about. That's a beetle that's currently under eradication program by the USDA near Cincinnati and Bethel, Ohio. And one reason that we are so concerned about that one is it's only about 15 miles from our border, so it's very close to us. Another one is imported fire ant. That's one that you typically think about with states farther to the south, Tennessee and even farther south. Excuse me. But it is starting to creep into Kentucky. We're starting to see it in West Kentucky and Land Between the Lakes area. So we're definitely on the lookout for that to make sure it's not spreading too much farther from there. Spotted lanternfly, that's one that is not in our state, but it's definitely on our radars. It's causing a lot of problems in Pennsylvania and also some of the surrounding states. West Virginia has just crept into eastern portions of Ohio, New Jersey, Virginia. We also do some commodity-based surveys. These are things like corn and soybeans, but we also have a oak commodity-based survey because, you know, a lot of our forests are oak dominated, so we're out there looking for different insects that may be attacking them. And also gypsy moth, and that's what I'm going to talk about mostly today. But to follow up on this slide, we do quite a bit of invasive pest outreach, and that is it's geared toward homeowners, the general public, and just trying to raise the awareness level of all the different pests so that they can be additional eyes out in there looking for them, and also what they can do to kind of slow the spread of these things. And lastly, firewood kiln certification. That is something that was kind of put on us just a few weeks ago. Matter of fact, the USDA's their quarantine for emerald ash borer ended on January 15th. And part of that quarantine, the USDA was actually going out and certifying different firewood kilns. And these are people that are shipping firewood to other states. So we're taking that on now. We've reached out to some of those businesses already to get that process going. But if there's somebody in your county or in your area that is a firewood shipper, just have them contact us, and I'll have my contact information up on the last slide. So a little bit more about gypsy moth. It was introduced in Boston, Massachusetts in 1868, and unlike a lot of our other introduced pests, this one was actually purposely brought over they brought it over to trial for silk production. That didn't work, but unfortunately some of the moths escaped, and about 10 years later they had their first outbreak of gypsy moth up there. And these couple of slides here just show what they're doing to try to eradicate it. These is mostly gentlemen. Looks like they're out on the ends of the branches, literally looking for egg masses. And what they're doing is they're scraping those egg masses off. This picture here shows egg masses, kind of a tan colored, and they would scrape them off and put them in buckets of kerosene, or they would burn them to try to control them. And this is kind of how gypsy moth gets its name, is that the female moth will lay her eggs on just about anything. And this includes cars, travel trailers, anything that's outdoors. And then when people unknowingly move these articles to a new area, these egg masses can hatch, and then we can have a new population pop up in an area where it's not known to occur. This map shows where gypsy moth is known to be located in the United States in the dark blue. The gold area shows where it is in Canada. And the kind of greenish color there on the western edge of the blue is, that's known as the slow the spread zone. And that is, it's a highly managed area. It's high intensity trapping. And science has proven that this STS zone dramatically slows the spread of gypsy moth throughout the United States. So you can see it's spread quite a bit in its 152 years that gypsy moth has been here. So we do have a pretty robust gypsy moth trapping program. We put out about 5,000 traps each year. And the trap there is on the upper left. It's called a delta trap. This one here is brown, but they can be orange or green. The color just is whatever that they have to provide to us. It really doesn't mean anything. The inside of the trap is covered in a sticky glue, and it's a synthetic sex pheromone strip that's inside of it. And the male moth, as he's flying around, he thinks that there's a female in there, and he gets caught in that sticky goo, and that's how we do our detection. Excuse me. The traps are highly effective. Why we're concerned, one reason is there's a lot of host material for gypsy moth. They'll feed on over 300 different things, but oak is preferred, and obviously with Kentucky being an oak predominant forest, that's of utmost concern for us. The gypsy moth caterpillar itself is very distinctive. It has 5 pair of blue dots behind the head, followed by 6 pair of red dots, and it's hairy. The eastern tent caterpillar there on the lower right is one that we do have in Kentucky. Gypsy moth is not here yet, but the eastern tent caterpillar is often confused with gypsy moth. It has a blue stripes down the side and a white stripe down the back. Another distinguishing characteristic is that eastern tent caterpillar, as the name implies, it will actually make a tent, usually in cherry trees, things like that in the spring, whereas gypsy moth caterpillars, they do not make a tent at all. and this just to show you how bad this pest can be at times. This picture was taken in Wisconsin, I believe, and this is early summer, and you can see that there's just very few leaves on the trees, and it's because they've been fed on so heavily by gypsy moth larvae. So this map shows where the shaded areas are where all we've trapped in Kentucky. The blue is one area, and the greenish is the slow to spread zone, which it does spill into Kentucky just a little bit. But we had 6 moths caught in 2020. 1 moth here in Lexington that was on East New Circle Road. 1 moth down there in Barron County that was right along I-65, the Cave City exit. And 1 moth in Laurel County that was at Craig's Creek Campground on Laurel Lake. To be honest, single moth captures are not really that concerning to us. We have a few of those every year, and they usually don't pan out to be anything to be worried about. But the one that is a little bit concerning is the one there in Floyd County, where we have 3 moths caught in a single trap. So what we will do this year is we will go there and we'll put in additional traps around that to see what is, see if there's anything there. A lot of times we do that, and the follow-up work shows that there's nothing there, but we want to be on top of this. So that's our plan moving forward. And again, there are no known populations of gypsy moth in Kentucky. So that's it in a nutshell. This is my contact information if anybody wants to reach out to me. I have 2 websites listed there. The KY State Int one is more of our overall information. It has information concerning the licensing and certification programs that we do. And the second one, the Unlucky for Kentucky, is more geared toward the invasive pests. So, thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joe. A quick follow-up question for you. So we talked about gypsy moth, an invasive insect that's not yet in Kentucky, but is right on our border. And I think that program, the slow spread program, is so valuable and so important because the longer we can hold it off, the better. Because of the negative impact that this insect would have on our woods. Did you want to comment on that at all? Kind of what would happen if gypsy moth does establish in Kentucky?
Yeah, so, you know, you can have outbreak years like what I showed there. And then we would fall under a quarantined area, and it would be, things would start getting regulated. It'd be a lot of work for the forestry people. Like for instance, if you're shipping logs, let's say for instance that it's found in Pike County, and Pike County becomes quarantined. If you're a logger and you want to ship your logs from Pike County to Floyd County, even though it's next door, there's different things you're gonna have to do. You might not be able to send it in certain times of the year. You might have to, you know, it becomes a major burden for everybody, really.
And in areas where it's been introduced, for those of you that are oak fans, it really decreases the quality of those woods. It really hurts oak, which of course hurts other species as well. So something to consider. We do not want it. Thank you for the work that you and others are doing to keep it out of here. And I know that's just a tiny window into your work, but I want to invite Alexandra Blevins back on and see if we've got any questions. So I see that we have one in the chat about laurel wilt of sassafras, and what can forester owners do about that? Is there anything that someone who has sassafras can do to either stop it from spreading or protect their trees? And that's a tough question because it's so new in our area. We really don't have answers to some of those things. We're trying to figure that out right now. So if you live in an area in a county that currently has laurel wilt, and have large sassafras that you're willing to let us experiment on, we are trying to partner with a group looking at insecticide or fungicide treatments to protect large sassafras from laurel wilt, to see if that's even an option. once you've got it, I think not spreading it is really important. You don't want to spread it to a new location. You know, those beetles that spread the fungus that causes it, they can fly, so they're going to spread on their own, but they'll spread a lot faster if we drive them around to different parts of the state. So not moving firewood, period, because it's not just laurel wilt, it's not just you know, that, it's lots of different things. But definitely thinking about sassafras, not moving that around. And Alexandra and Joe, do you all want to comment on that as well?
I think you hit the nail on the head, Ellen. I mean, you know, if you're in one of those highlighted counties, definitely, you know, look around and check on your sassafras periodically. If you're seeing any signs of wilt or early fall coloration, that is, you know, a big heads up that you could potentially have laurel wilt on your property. And so, you know, as you mentioned, we're still trying to develop the work with that fungicide. And, you know, we all know the national champion sassafras tree is here in Kentucky in Owensboro, and we've got to protect that sassafras as well as all the others. So, you know, we don't have a cure or a treatment yet, but work is going into that. And definitely, as with everything, you know, don't be moving these wood products around. That could be potentially how we even got it here in the state. So, you know, definitely keep those things in mind.
Now, I'll just add that, you know, the beetle is very, very small. It's very tiny. So it's hard to see the beetle, but those toothpicks, sawdust toothpicks that come out of the logs, they're the more indicative telltale sign of the beetle.
Any other questions? Well, if any come up, feel free to put them in the chat and we will address them. Let's see, is it possible that adults could hitchhike on wooden pallets in transport? For many insects, invasive insects, you know, packaging material pallets can be a way that they would move around. For this particular insect, the red bay ambrosia beetle that moves laurel wilt, I think it's less likely because of how those beetles live and where they like to live. I think it's a little less likely, but not that you couldn't be moving other things accidentally. Joe or Alexandra, do you want to comment on that?
Well, just that's an excellent segue. We, the Kentucky Division of Forestry, is partnering with our federal counterparts for this next season. We're going to be doing some early detection and rapid response trapping, and the red bay ambrosia beetle is included in that. So, you know, we're not quite sure if the red bay ambrosia beetle can move around in pallets and dunnage and all of that extra wood material. But we'll have, you know, hopefully some more insight to that after this trapping season with that new program.
Yeah, I'm not speaking about the red bay ambrosia beetle, but you know, that's how emerald ash borer got to our country. Is it was in pallets as larvae. So it's usually not the adult stage. It's usually an egg mass or the larval stage that is transported to new areas.
Great.
Usually.
Well, thank you both so much for joining us today. Appreciate having you on, but appreciate all of your work and everything that you're doing for forest health in the state.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Yeah, no doubt, Ellen. That is, it's so important that we are looking out and caring for our woodlands and how interconnected everything is. So it's really refreshing for me to see that we have some folks out there that are, you know, working on this on an ongoing basis. So thank you all. Really, we all depend on the work that you all do. So thank you.
And
so much.
if you liked what you heard today and you want to learn more, I want to invite you all to join for the Kentucky Forest Health Conference that's taking place next week. This is going to be happening on February 5th. Can you see the flyer here?
We can.
Great. So this is February 5th from 1 to 4 p.m. And you're going to hear more updates on what's happening in forest health in Kentucky, but also all of the things that we talked about, things that might be headed our way in the future. And then something that we didn't talk about too much today, but is really important for forest health, invasive plants and their management. So this is a free conference. All you have to do is register, and I'll put the registration link in the chat, but you can also find us online, and I hope you all will join.
Well, again, Ellen, Joe, Alexandra, thank you all so much really for not only this presentation today, but the ongoing work you all do to kind of keep our woodlands healthy and productive. So really appreciate it.
We do. It's always a great thing to learn about everything that's going on in our state. So moving on to our tree of the week this week, we have Lori Thomas coming on, and she can tell us a little bit about what tree is coming up.
All right, so today we're doing one, it's the river birch, and it's a tree that we might not see out in nature in the bluegrass area. We'll see it in other parts of the state, but you do see it planted quite a bit. It is a very much used ornamental tree. So we would see it in our landscape in the bluegrass, but otherwise we would see it in nature out across the rest of the state. So here's the river birch.
I'm Laurie Thomas with the University of Kentucky Forestry and Natural Resources Extension, and I'm here with the tree of the week, the river birch. River birch, Betula nigra, is known for its distinctive and attractive cinnamon-colored peeling bark. It is also known as red birch, water birch, or black birch. It is a medium-sized deciduous tree that typically grows somewhere around 50 to 80 feet tall and 24 to 36 inches in diameter. It is a relatively fast-growing tree that is fairly short-lived and is classified as shade intolerant. Trees tend to have a pyramidal shape when young, developing into a more oval shape at maturity with an irregular crown. It also tends to form several forks from the base, and the trunks tend to lean outwards. Although the wood has limited usefulness, the tree's graceful form, attractive bark, and high resistance to the bronze birch borer makes it an important ornamental, especially at the northern and western extremes of its natural range. River birch is native to the eastern United States and to portions of the central United States. It grows throughout Kentucky, except in the bluegrass area. It is a frequent tree along streams, ponds, and moist, wet soils. Because of abundant seed production, rapid germination, and vigorous early growth, river birch is one of the pioneer species of new forests growing along stream banks. Even though it has an affinity for water, it is only moderately resistant to flooding, which may account for its absence on much of the Mississippi River floodplain. River birch is a deciduous tree with alternately arranged leaves. The leaves are simple and somewhat diamond to egg-shaped with a wedge-shaped base, and they're usually between 2 to 4 inches long. The leaf margins are doubly serrated. They are green above and pale below and tend to be kind of fuzzy. The leaves turn yellow in autumn and drop quickly. This species is monoecious, which means one house, so a tree will have both male and female flowers. The male catkins are reddish-green and about 2 to 3 inches long, and they appear at the end of the twig. They're formed in the fall and mature in April or May of the following spring. The female flowers are about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch upright catkins that are light green and appear with the leaves in the spring. The flowers are wind-pollinated. River birch fruit is an erect cylindrical-like cone that's about 1 to 1.5 inches long. It has numerous hairy scales and it's typically kind of a greenish to reddish brown. It contains many tiny 3-winged seeds, but these seeds are the largest of all birches that are native to the United States. The fruit ripens in very early summer or late spring. The winged seeds are wind and water dispersed, and trees produce good seed crops almost every year. The bark is smooth and rust-colored on young trees. As the tree grows, it develops papery scales that exfoliate horizontally. On older trees, the bark is usually several colors from creamy to an orangish brown or cinnamon. The bark is quite distinctive and one of the best identification features. The wood is hard, strong, and close-grained. The heartwood tends to be a light reddish-brown with much lighter sapwood. It is considered perishable and will rot if exposed to the elements. The wood is of limited commercial value for lumber since it's usually fairly knotty. River birch is a relatively important tree for wildlife that live in bottomland hardwood habitats. Numerous birds eat the seeds, including ruffed grouse and wild turkey, and because the seeds ripen earlier than most other seed-producing trees, it makes them especially valuable. The tree also provides nesting sites for waterfowl and cover for many other animals, and the foliage is occasionally browsed by deer. River birch wood is used locally for furniture, basket materials, small wooden items, veneer, and occasionally for pulpwood. Ox yokes, wooden shoes, and furniture have all been made from its wood in the past, and at one time it was used to make rice casks in the Carolinas. It is used for erosion control along streams and in surface mine reclamation since it tolerates acidic soils. It is also an important landscape tree. The national champion river birch is also the Kentucky champion. It's located in Perry County, Kentucky at Buckhorn State Park. It's 196 inches in circumference, 68 feet tall, with a 73-foot crown spread. If you'd like to know more about champion trees, check out American Forest Champion Trees or check out the Kentucky Division of Forestry Champion Trees. Now for a few fun facts about river birch. Prince Maximilian, the short-lived emperor of Mexico, proclaimed the river birch the most beautiful American tree. River birch produces a tremendous amount of pollen in the spring and is widely blamed for hay fever problems. The wood is strong but light and has been used to make artificial limbs and toys. Native Americans used the boiled sap as a sweetener similar to maple syrup. The scientific genus name Betula is the Latin name for birch, and it's from the Sanskrit bruha, which means to shine, referring to the bark. The species name is nigra and is Latin for dark or black, referring to the darkening bark as the tree ages. I'm glad you joined me today to learn about the river birch and get the opportunity to get out into your woodlands, local park, and neighborhood and enjoy the distinctive river birch.
We look forward to these every week, Lori, and I'm so glad that you're doing them. It does have the name of river birch. So I was wondering, can you plant these in your backyard?
You can. You want to be careful of high pH soils. They don't do as well with a higher pH soil, but they do okay in drier soils, even though it is something that would naturally be growing along a stream. They're good to use around your landscape because they do tolerate compacted soils as well, which we tend to have in our neighborhoods and whatnot. But just got to watch out for the higher pH because they prefer a neutral to slightly more acidic soil.
Okay. Someone did ask, is this the one that the syrup tastes like butterscotch?
I don't know. I didn't run across that is in any of the research that I did, and I've never tasted the syrup from it. Has anybody else heard that?
Not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting
Lori,
to
we'll get back to you.
Yeah. We do have a lot of maple syrup producers, so maybe we can get them to tap some of the river birch and see. So
There you go. There you go. Well, thank you, Lori, for doing this. We greatly appreciate it.
I know I learn something every week, Laurie. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. So, one thing that we've got coming up is our upcoming programs. We're getting into springtime and a lot of things are starting to gear up. And even with the pandemic, we're still trying to try to promote those programs in a safe social distancing manner, of course. But you've got a listing for us.
Yes, we do. We were starting to think about what's upcoming, and it's really a lot. So I hope you got your calendars ready. We're going to show you a new segment that we're going to try to feature at the end of the month, each month of upcoming programs for the following month. So this first one we have here is just where you can get all of these. So this is our link to our events page, our calendar page. So if you're trying to think about, all right, what was he talking about? This will be the place that you should be able to find those links that we're talking about. All right, the first one I want to talk about is a series starting next Tuesday, the Woodland Stewards Webinar Series. This is a regional program that the University of Kentucky is partnering with some of the surrounding states and their extension programs, their forestry extension programs. And this is actually the third year of this program. So it's been a continuing series, and this series is really focusing on getting some active management done in your woodlands. And I'm really excited that we have a number of our team members are participating in it. Dr. Ellen Crocker is going to be part of it. Dr. Jacob Muller and myself are going to be presenting. So check those out. February 2nd is the first one. And these are going to be on Tuesdays from 1 to 2 p.m. Eastern time. So you'll have to register for each of the sessions individually, but they will be broadcast via Zoom. So please check that out. And also, if you happen to miss the last couple of years, those are available as well. And you can navigate to those from that website there that I have posted right now. All right. Next, let's talk about a wood symposium, mass timber. This is the ideal of basically using timber laminated and glued and put together to really create huge pieces of timber that can be used for building, large buildings. And our very own Chad Nyman is working on that here out of our group with some folks from the landscape architect and others. So if you're interested in this, or you know anybody that's in the construction or the building, this is a great opportunity to kind of learn about this. And it's a great way to use some of our lower quality, perhaps, resources and a good market for them. And, you know, we say wood is good. So this is a great way that you can use wood to do some of these nice buildings. So if you're interested in that, please check that out as well. Next, Ellen mentioned it, but they're working on the Kentucky Forest Health Conference. It's coming up on February 5th. This is really going to be a great opportunity for you to learn a lot more. They have got together a great panel of presenters and speakers, so please check that out. It is free, but you do have to register, and that's going to be on, again, February 5th from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern time.
And I did put that link in the chat pod. So
okay, excellent. Thank you. And then coming up on February 6th, we have Kentucky Maple Day. This is the second year we've done this program. So we have a number of producers that are basically opening up their property and their sugar bushes. And it's going to vary a little bit, so you might want to call ahead, but we've got a link on our website there where you can find all the participating producers. And all we would ask is you probably call ahead just to make sure you kind of know what you're getting. But also, please practice social distancing and wear a mask while you're there as well. Next, I want to talk about maple tapping basics. We're working with the Boone County Extension Program and the Boone County Arboretum, and they are putting together a maple tapping basic. So if you've been curious about maple syrup and how you might get involved with it, this is a great opportunity to kind of get in on the ground floor and kind of understand, you know, not only how you identify the trees, which Laurie's going to be teaching about how to identify the different maple trees, but some of the equipment you can use, when you should do the tapping, how to tap, but also some of the products that you can develop. And, you know, here at UK, we have a number of maple syrup related projects, and we'll be talking about those as well. So if you've just been curious about maple syrup and you got a few maple trees, please tune in to this program. It is on a Saturday, February 13th. And that's 10 to noon. So you'll need to register directly through the Boone County Extension office. And there's a short little link right there. Or you can just call Lacey Kessel. She's the county agent for natural resources up there, and she can help get you registered. So please check that out as well. And then finally, I want to mention the Kentucky Master Logger TV. That's February 23rd, and that's going to be a full day program. So if you know any master loggers that need continuing education credit, encourage them to check with their local county extension offices because these tests need to be these educational programs have to be proctored. We are running them through county extension offices. So a variety of those offices are doing that. So if you're interested in this, please check with the local county office. And if they're not offering it, they may be able to connect you with a nearby one that is.
Yeah, there's several that are. So if one's not the one, you can check with someplace else and hopefully they'll be doing it.
Excellent. So it's a great opportunity to get your credits if you need them. And then finally, Renee, I'll wrap this up with our From the Woods lineup. So again, every Wednesday at 11 a.m., we are going to be live via Zoom and Facebook Live. And on the 3rd, we're going to be talking about the 7th part of Dr. Jacob Muller's Forestry 101 series. So please don't miss that. And then the following week, on the 10th of February, we're going to be talking about fire season. It's coming up real soon, so we want to be on the lookout for spring fire season. We'll talk about that. And then Laurie's going to be talking about Winter Tree ID on the 17th. And then we're going to have a return of Eric Conley coming back. He's a county agent down in Garrett County, and he's going to be talking about some wildlife photography. So we are really excited to have this lineup, and we hope that you will find is some of these useful. If you know of others that would find these programs of interest, please share them and let others know that these programs are available to them. So Renee, another great lineup for next month, and I'm excited to be part of some of them, but I encourage you to check them all out because there's some great educational opportunities available.
Definitely. We thank you, Billy, for getting all this together. There's a lot of different dates out there, and with COVID and things changing, everything seems to be changing here lately. So do make sure that you check out our events page, and we will put any updates on any of those whatsoever. And so you can get your contact information and what have you. Well, we had another great show, Billy, and every week I appreciate you being my co-host on this show, and we appreciate all of you joining us every Wednesday at 11. And FromTheWoodsToday.com is where you can find all of our past shows. If you've missed anything, or maybe you want to check out some of those dates that we gave you, we greatly appreciate you joining us on Facebook or on Zoom on our live show. And anytime that you have any questions, you can submit a question to us, or any show topics. Billy, we're always looking for show ideas.
Yes, ma'am.
So until then, I guess you have a great rest of your week and take care.
Bye, everyone.